Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. Today we are going to be discussing less risk, lower cost, and reduced firefighting. Are a managed IT services model the answer for you? So what we'd like to do is, on this overview slide, I want to just talk a little bit about the fact that we'll be discussing the different types of external IT service provision. And what we're going to be doing is distinguishing the difference between co-location, software as a service, and managed services, managed IT services. This webinar will then proceed on and discuss the primary value drivers as to why an organization would consider managed services and that type of offering, and what benefits such an offering could deliver. And then we're going to conclude with some suggested criteria to consider when evaluating a managed services model. So I want to continue on a little bit about what managed services is. So we're going to be defining what managed services are, why to explore a managed services model, and then switch gears a little bit and talk about the cost structures of an enterprise system. We can then discuss a few business case scenarios and how you would actually go about deciding to employ a managed services model. But before that, what we want to do is let's talk about the term managed services. And by doing so, I want to first say what it's not. It's not just hosting space or co-location. Anyone can actually host equipment internally or externally at another provider. The real value is the hosting combined with the services. It takes into account all aspects of your IT environment. It's not software as a service. So software as a service, it really doesn't take into account the broader picture of infrastructure and the people. And finally, we're not just talking about an offshore model. We're not talking about just sending your IT infrastructure or the functions to an offshore provider. All of these are very commodity-based solutions. They may remove one headache, but and potentially give you some dollar savings, but ultimately it's not a holistic strategic approach. And by just doing one of these, your enterprise systems could suffer. All right, so then what is it? What are we talking about? So managed services is an all-encompassing model. We're not just talking about the core servers. We're talking about the other ancillary systems as well. We're talking about infrastructure and the personnel associated with that infrastructure to give you the operational uptime or the quality of delivery that you need for that enterprise system. Where the real efficiencies are is a cohesive management plan and efficiencies that you can get in your cost structure, plus the efficiencies that you get in IT operations. Again, it's not a commodity model that we're looking for. And this is going to become more clear as we proceed on. So I'd like to make this a little more interactive with everyone. I'd like to take a quick vote. Do you utilize managed services, managed IT services model in your business today? So I'm going to pull up the vote, and I'd like to get everyone's input here. You should see screens. Are you using it? No, you're not using it, and also you're not sure. So if you could take a minute here and just select one of those, that would be great. As the votes are coming in here. Again, if you could take just a second here to select either A, for you are using managed services model, B, that you're not using one today, or C, you're not really sure. Okay. So fairly split right now based on the votes that we've received. Basically 50% saying yes and 50% saying no, they're not. And we'll have some additional votes, voting opportunities in other sections of this. Also, there's questions that you can post, and we can answer those questions at the end if you do have additional questions. Okay. So now we're going to be proceeding on with the webcast. So why would you use a managed IT service model? So we discussed what managed services entails. Let's talk about why an organization would utilize this type of model. So there's three primary reasons. First, there is strategic reasons. It's a vehicle to enable transformation change. And what I mean by that is if you have divestitures or acquisitions or roll-ups that you're doing, it gives you a vehicle to rapidly bring new systems online, or if you're in the process of doing a divestiture, it helps take those systems that are part of those systems, processes, applications that are part of the divested entity and setting them up in a silo. And what that's going to enable you to do is your IT staff can then focus on the divested applications to get them up and running rather than focusing on the day-to-day IT operations, or potentially vice versa. So it gives you a vehicle to be able to burst and do those type of strategic transactions, if you will. The managed services provider could also then support these silos with limited or no disruption to your IT organization. So it's also going to allow internal resources to focus on business imperatives. So basically by enabling your internal IT organization to focus on business issues rather than the day-to-day technical IT issues, this will give them a vehicle to raise them up in the organization. And this could include deploying new applications, new technologies, new virtualization projects that they want. And it will also provide you a vehicle to embrace things like virtualization. So implementing VMware or Hyper-V or one of those other technologies to further your organization. It's going to also enable you to mitigate regulatory compliance risks or issues. So a lot of people have experience with the regulatory agencies. It seems that in today's industry, regardless of your business type, there is some type of overlaying regulatory body, whether that be the requirements of a SAS 70 or now SSA 16 certifications, or Sarbanes-Oxley, payment card industries, or the FDA. I mean, what you really have is you have an environment that is going to require a very stringent level of oversight. So you're going to need to implement a quality management system. So implementing those quality management systems can be very daunting, and then to maintain it going forward could be even more cumbersome. So if you partner with a managed services provider, it'll help you sleep better at night. And then the last piece from a strategic reason is the ability to burst from a capacity and discipline perspective. And really this stresses the benefits of having a larger IT organization backing in a managed services model. So not only can the managed services provider call on other resources to assist during whether it be a production crunch or assist, because you have an incident going on, but there are others from other disciplines with other depth of skills for project work. So it really gives you that flexing that you need when you need to run your business. So the next reason that you may want to go into, so we talked about these strategic reasons. The next reason is tactical reasons. So many of these items really focus on cost efficiencies and organizational efficiencies. In regards to the cost side, you can see from this list that they can be very simple yet very effective. So you'll be able to minimize your costs, whether they be capital, personnel, or operational costs, while still providing you with a predictable fixed cost outlay. You'll also be able to get operational efficiencies. As we discussed in the last slide, you'll have a greater depth of skills, and you'll be able to get those internal projects done that you just haven't had the time for, haven't had the ability to do analysis on, all while having an overall expanded support coverage. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later. And then the last area is just quality of service delivery. So an enterprise managed IT service provider will have invested to eliminate single points of failure. So proper redundancies from a power standpoint, from an HVAC standpoint, server capacity standpoint. To have all these redundancies for individual organizations, it could be very cost prohibitive, and it's not really in their core competency. If you're a manufacturing organization, you want to focus on the ability to manufacture products better, faster, and cheaper. Not, the IT side of things is just a means to an end many times. So this redundancy, though, yields the better quality of delivery through improved system availability, so less chance of component failure, stability in your applications and your infrastructure, and then improved system response times. In addition, you'll also get better quality of call center delivery since you will have a true 24/7 model. So based on that, I'd like to take another quick poll. Where do you see your business deriving the most value from a managed IT service environment? So now I'm going to pull up the voting again and just allow you to have an opportunity to vote. So A being, is it more strategic? You utilize a managed services model. And again, you might have multiple areas where you're using it and you see all three, but where do you see it as the most beneficial? Is it more strategic? Is it more tactical? Is it more quality of service delivery? Or you're not sure, or it just doesn't apply? So again, give you a few moments here to put the votes in, and then we'll go over the results following that. And following these votes, we're next going to look at where are you spending your money today. So ultimately, that's what a lot of people want to know. Another second or so here to gather the last remaining votes. Okay, let's take a quick look at the results. So all results are focused on the strategic side, and that's great. I mean, that's really where you can get a tremendous amount of value in your managed services type models. But we're going to look at some of the costs today on the next slide, where I'm just going to pull up the next slide for us here. The next slide from a cost structure, and you can see where some of the tactical items can also be very beneficial. So there's three broad areas that I look at from a spend perspective to support enterprise systems. It's the infrastructure, the personnel associated with managing that infrastructure, and then costs associated with mitigating risk and quality, having improved quality management. So to properly support an enterprise system, there's a certain amount of infrastructure that's required. So we're not just talking about the application and database servers, for example. There's other ancillary systems that you need to have in place, like DNS servers, SMTP servers for mail relay, ticketing systems, and other similar systems. On the network side, you need the firewalls and switches and routers, and then obviously you have all the redundancy to make sure that you have no single points of failure. This becomes very costly. And then when you look at the facility side of things, you have the data center itself, multiple data centers potentially to have your disaster recovery. You have to have multiple components of HVAC and battery backup, UPS systems, security, generator, and again, redundancies across all of these things to ensure no single points of failure. Then you think you're done. You have all this in place, but you still have the ongoing fees. So you have maintenance fees on your servers, maintenance fees on the infrastructure, not to mention all of the personnel overhead supporting all of these systems. So when you use a managed services model, you can basically leverage all the investments that a managed services provider has made at really a fraction of a cost. You're getting a sliver across all of that. And not only from a cost perspective, but also from an operational efficiency perspective. There's also a lot, on the next category, there's also a lot of personnel requirements associated with running large-scale enterprise systems. There's multiple roles that you have to have within your organization. Database administrators, systems administrators, network admins. You have to have application expertise. And then you need multiple people within those roles to cover things like sick time, vacation time, someone's in a car, someone's on a plane headed to another facility. You need a broader range of people to cover all those time frames and just to have that breadth of skill sets. You also might need to cover a broader production schedule. So today, almost no IT systems are 9 by 5. But unfortunately, some of your people may be. You may have the people centrally located in one geography. If this system goes offline unexpectedly at 7 p.m., are you confident that you'll have someone available to pick up the phone and work on the issue immediately? Suppose it's 2 a.m. on a Sunday, same thing. So you need people on call, which requires that depth of staff that we were talking about before. So also, if your systems have very high uptime requirements because you're 24/7 production schedule, or you're a global environment where there's people always on these systems, you really need eyes on the system 24 hours a day, and that means more employees. Then you have, obviously, the administrative overhead, the cost of benefits and vacations, and then the management teams that are layered across that to manage all of these different types of people. A managed services model would really allow you one point of contact and one predictable cost spend per month or per year. This all adds up. These are recurring costs, and if you're not using a managed services provider, it's very difficult to reduce these costs without changing the way your systems are supported or without potentially putting your systems at risk. So the next typical area I look at is from the risk and the quality management side. Again, we've talked about all of the regulatory requirements that many organizations are governed by, whether, again, PCI, SOX, HIPAA, FDA. I mean, the list goes on. There's regulations across the board for all industries. The effort to implement quality practices is very high, to have a quality management system and all the policies and procedures and such. But the effort to maintain that and make sure you can produce evidence that you are following these is even higher. So not only do you need to develop that quality management system, you may need to maintain that system. And it's not just, when I say system, it's not just the servers and the applications. It's really the SOPs and the best practices. So you have to make sure that there's ongoing periodic review, that there's adherence. You need to be able to demonstrate control at every level across all of these policies and procedures that you've set up. So when you are audited, scheduled, or surprised, that you can be sure that you're meeting those requirements. As you maintain all of the above, you need to be sure you're compliant with any new regulatory requirements as well. So again, in addition to all this overhead, you'll most likely need to dedicate a full-time person, a quality manager, to this role, because it is, to properly do it across a large organization, it really does require some very focused, dedicated time. So if you partner with a managed services provider that already has these controls in place or has this expertise from a regulatory standpoint, you don't need to worry about this compliance, because they are going to be facilitating that for you and providing out reporting and enabling you to run your business and focus on your core competencies. And really what's important, what I stress to people, is focus on a managed services provider that has industry experience that can help you shape and define what your business is looking like from a regulatory perspective. So the next area that I typically talk with people on is the operational coverage. I want to dig a little bit more into the operational costs that tend to be the largest ongoing cost for an IT organization. So many production schedules are not 9 to 5. We talked about that earlier. Minimally, they are 6 to 6 or 5 to 7 days a week, or most likely 24/7. Subsequently, your IT organization can't be 9 to 5 anymore either. You really need to have broader than the 9 to 5 coverage, which requires, again, more staff and broader depth of skills. Because of the criticality of these systems, IT management is being pushed for maximal uptime. What I found is many organizations will monitor and hope for the best and say, oh, well, I can always call John at 2 a.m. and he should answer. But again, hoping for the best, you need to be sure that you have eyes on these systems all the time. You need proven IT resources that have the ability to get on these systems no matter what. And it's proven that when you have this kind of model, IT resources with eyes on the systems 24 hours a day, it really vastly increased the stability and uptime of these systems. And the reason being is because they're being more proactive. They're looking at the systems. They're doing tuning, and they're not just waiting for something to happen. They're proactively ensuring that these systems stay up, and that's very, very important. So now we're going to take a look at the typical requirements for an IT organization. So we've covered the fact that most of you will need multiple disciplines to support an enterprise system. We also discussed the need of having depth within those disciplines to cover a broader operational coverage window. So let's look at what that footprint could look like. Typically, again, 3 database administrators, and this isn't necessarily because you need the effort of 3 full-time people, but you need the coverage and the depth of knowledge internally to be able to expand and contract as needed. So 3 database administrators, 3 systems administrators, minimally 1 network administrator, a quality manager, someone who is managing the security of all these systems, and a service delivery manager or a business owner. This can easily exceed $1 million annually. The biggest challenge is you only need a fraction of all these resources, but you need the coverage of all these resources. And it's not possible in an internal IT organization. A managed services model will really enable you to make use of fractional resources. So you might only need 25% of a total DBA, but you still need the depth and breadth of the coverage. And a managed services model is going to give you access to that depth and breadth of coverage. This model can many times yield a net reduction in employees, or what I really try to focus on with the organizations I deal with is repurposing those employees to focus on business imperatives rather than the traditional IT services that we discussed earlier. And this really gives them a model where they can have a step up in their career, and they can focus more value to the business. And the IT organization overall will provide more value to an organization. You're also going to get role-specific expertise because of that depth. And a managed services model will also allow for immediate staff augmentation of projects that you might be trying to do. And it will then also have a 24/7 dedicated support center associated with your IT organization. So you get to leverage specialist skills in the capacity that they are needed and still get a net efficiency gain. So let's take a look at a managed IT services business case. We've already discussed how your personnel costs can exceed $1 million a year. Let's just assume that you've already built a fully redundant data center. So just the cost for the maintenance for that data center, whether it be servers, network gear, HVAC, UPS systems, all the proactive and reactive support for that can exceed $100,000 per year. Then you might need to be doing a technology refresh of your enterprise systems. And obviously this can vary greatly, but conservatively, $250,000 to $500,000 a year. So looking at all of these individually, these costs can really add up and make outsourcing look appealing, or make an IT managed services model look appealing. Then you take it at the macro level, and the support plan, support engagement really looks very compelling, since the managed services model includes all of that, and it could range from $180,000 to, on the low side, to $720,000, and still yield a huge savings for you annually. And in addition, just to the pure cost savings, you also get higher quality of delivery of service, and you get a very predictable cost spend for those peaks in support requirements that you get. Now, this is a real-world business case scenario. It's a customer I've worked with for many, many years. It's a global $5 billion 24/7 manufacturing organization. The initial engagement was quite small. It was just us providing database administration services. And then as we worked with them and partnered with this customer, it grew to include scope of all the primary ERP. For this one specifically, it was an Oracle Applications e-Business Suite, all their functions. So basically what we did is we worked directly with the senior leadership, the CIO and some of the other senior leadership, and developed the gold standard support model for the way they want all their systems run. Because again, we were in this specific scenario at this specific point in time, we were only hosting and managing their Oracle ERP environment. And that was all components for them. So we did the end user support. We were doing the database and systems administration, disaster recovery. It was really all the custom development. We were handling end-to-end all of those components and giving them 24/7 support structure. Because of that, the CIO said, all right, we have all these other very mission-critical applications. Let's take this gold standard model and expand it to all these other systems. So they had a distribution ERP system. They had financial planning applications. They had business intelligence tools. They had collaboration tools. And basically, we built this gold standard on top of all these other mission-critical applications. So due to the intimacy that we had with the customer's environment now, we're not just doing IT consulting and solving IT problems. We're actually helping and working with them to solve business problems. So we're working with the leadership to say, all right, well, here's the new trends in the industry. Here's the new regulations that you have to be aware of because of this thing that you're doing in your manufacturing business. So this customer now is virtualizing all of their corporate infrastructure into a global IT managed services model. And now this customer is also able to support a 15,000 user base with an IT staff of 5. And it is a true global, multi-country organization, 24/7 manufacturing, and their IT staff is only 5 full-time employees. And these employees don't focus on IT, the nuts and bolts day-to-day IT. What they focus on is the solving business problems and focusing on business imperatives and driving value to the business through IT, not just being systems administration people or database administration teams. So I want to do a quick recap here. So what is managed IT services? It's not co-location. It's really the comprehensive extension of your IT support organization. It's for strategic and technical objectives. So enabling your IT organization to focus on the business imperatives and new initiatives, not the IT day-to-day operations. It's going to give you a predictable spend pattern. It's going to give you efficiencies in your cost and delivery and improved quality of service delivery. The primary cost expenditures that we talked about, infrastructure, personnel, quality and risk management. It's going to give you the broader operational coverage, the 24/7 eyes on the system, and proactive maintenance and support, not just reactive. And it's going to give you overall operational efficiencies. So the need for the depth and breadth of resources, the challenge that the use of fractional resources are needed out of the overall pool of full-time employees. And a managed services support environment can give you role-specific expertise, will allow you for immediate staff augmentation for projects. It's a built-in 24/7 dedicated support center, and again, leveraging specialist skills in the capacity that they are needed and still get that net efficiency gain. So then what I wanted to do, I wanted to give you a list of questions that you can use to determine if a managed services model will work within your organization. And it might not, and that's okay, but these are some of those questions that you can ask internally to see if it would fit. Now, all of these questions are focused on an IT organization, but they can really be used in any area of your business. And these are what I consult with some of the leaders in industry today to say, how do you want to grow your business, and where do you want to focus your dollars? So if you were starting a business today from scratch, would you build this capability in internally. Most people would not. It's very cost prohibitive to build up from the ground up, and they want to focus their dollars elsewhere. Would other companies hire you to do this function for them? And this one I like a lot. If it's not in your core competency, most likely it would just be a distraction from your business. So if you're a manufacturing company, focus on how to manufacture better, quicker, faster, or quicker, cheaper. Will tomorrow's leaders of the company come from this area of the business? Again, you need to be focused on your core competencies of what your business wants to grow and do and who you want to be. Does this process create or define a unique competitive advantage for your firm? Again, it goes back to looking at the costs and looking at your company's core competencies. And is this business process directly contributing to the growth of the business or the expansion of the business? In many organizations, people are usually they say no, but then as you start digging in, they're like, it's not only not a direct contributor to growth, but it's one of the largest sources of overhead. So again, these questions are great to think about how you want to shape your organization. So from a business and decision perspective, that's what we do. And that's what I consult people on. It's providing highly flexible, customer-centric delivery models that meet unique needs. It's no one size fits all. We have regulatory compliant hosting and services capabilities. We are 24/7. We have multiple data centers globally and a full suite of enterprise platform experience, whether it be ERP, CRM, the Microsoft technology stacks, the Microsoft infrastructure stacks, BI. And what we do is that list that you see on the right. We provide network and systems administration, database administration, functional application support, technical development support, disaster recovery services, and regulatory compliance administration. So we take all of these things and we wrap them around. Now we have implementation and consulting capabilities within these, but really what we found the most value is in doing these services for companies, it really is a win-win. I'm very passionate about this model because it does make sense for both for us and it's for companies. We can give them better efficiencies that I was speaking about earlier, but providing them the cost structures to operate more efficiently. And that's really what I wanted to discuss with people today. There is the availability to post questions. I am happy to answer any additional questions that you might have. And I'm happy to answer questions after the fact. My contact details are michael.black@businessdecision.com. And again, if you have any questions now, or if you'd like to reach out to me at another time, I'm more than happy to answer questions or discuss any of the details that were in this. So this presentation will be on our website, that you can certainly download it later and take a look. If you have any no additional questions thus far, when this webcast is over, there's actually a ratings. I would certainly appreciate it if you could leave any comments or ratings there. That will help me to define and redefine these presentations later. And again, questions or comments I am happy to get, even if it's that you'd like to see more information in a following webcast. We typically like to do these at least once a month. All right, so we don't have any questions thus far. If you do, again, feel free to reach out. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.